For the second, I guess the second course for RPD's 101. Today, we are going to be covering how to design a flexible partial framework inside of the 3Shape dental system software for fabrication of a flexible RPD. And so Bryce is actually going to be covering the actual design process. I'm going to heckle them along the way. And then, of course, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask them while we're going through it. And if you also have, or also if you need CE credits for this, it is being recorded, and there is a test afterwards, so you can get the quizzes and answer the quizzes, and if you pass, I guess you get your CE credits. So that's kind of a small bonus there. So Bryce, go ahead and take it away, and we'll get rolling.
Awesome. What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining us today. I am Bryce from Whitmix, and like Cory said, we're going to be covering RPD flexibles today. A couple of little points of order before we actually get started. I did make the test, so good luck passing it for your CE credits. I am the gatekeeper. I'm just kidding. I did not make the test. It should be probably pretty easy. Also, for those of you that joined us yesterday for the cast partial design, have already heard this spiel, so I'm just going to give it to everybody that is new with us today. I am not a partials designer. I'm just going to be upfront and honest about that. I'm a fixed guy. However, I'm very good with the software. So the purpose of today is to demonstrate the can it. The purpose of today is to show you how the software works. So if you want to criticize my design, that's cool. I know I'm probably not the best partial designer out there, so it's all good. So let's go ahead and get started. So as most of you probably know, today we're going to be working in 3Shape. I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen so that we can get rocking and rolling here. All right, are we good? Everybody can see my screen, I think.
I can see it. We're good.
Wait. Okay, cool. So I'm going to go ahead and we're just going to start a new order by clicking the new order button. We're going to call this flexible, RPD.
RDP.
RDP. We're just going to call this flexible webinar. All right, so similar to yesterday, the first thing we need to do is select removable framework. So this is all going to be done in the exact same module as what we were working yesterday. It's the removables module. Now 3Shape calls it removable, which is a little vague. Really, it's the partials module is really the more probably adequate term. So we're just going to select any tooth on the arch and then select removable. I'm going to hover over this plus symbol, and you can change the material to really whatever you want. I'm just going to choose a generic model material. And so now we need to select our teeth. So let me find, so the scan I'm using, actually, let me pull up the STL file very quickly, because I forget exactly what tooth numbers we're doing here. All right, so we are going to be doing number 5, and then we're going to do 3 and 4, or I'm sorry, 2 and 3, and then let's see, on the other side, we're basically doing those. Really,
What,
could probably.
What annotation style is those? That's nothing. I was making a joke.
Oh, I get it. What annotation style is those?
Yeah.
It looks like we could actually fit a third molar if we wanted to, but I'm not going to, because we don't need to. Okay, so once we select our teeth, I'm going to go up here to anatomy, and it's as long as we already have framework, like removable partial framework selected on our order form, it's going to default over here to artificial tooth. Now, there's 2 ways you can do these, which is kind of nice. Let me change this to raw material. So when we're doing a partial, you can either do separate file for the framework and the teeth, which is what we're going to be doing today. But you could also do a monolithic. So if you wanted the teeth and the framework to be combined, like if you wanted to do like an acrylic partial or a flipper, we're actually going to be covering this on Friday, and you wanted to print it like monolithic in a tooth shade and then like just characterized for the pink, instead of choosing artificial tooth, you would choose the crown pontic right here.
Nice.
And then that's going to just combine the teeth with the framework as a single file. So there's a couple ways you can do this, which is really nice. We are working with a model, and I am not working with an antagonist. I'm not going to spend any time on occlusion because that's not really the purpose of today's demo. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And now I need to import the scan. So I'm going to right click. I'm going to go to import scan. And then I'm going to be working on, not Baby Yoda, actually. That would be fun. You guys can see in an earlier training series, we did some 3D printing and I printed Baby Yoda. But today we're doing upper RPD. This is the way.
This is the way.
All right, so now I'm going to right click and we're ready to go into design. All right. So a lot of this is going to look similar to yesterday for those of you that were with us yesterday. For those of you that weren't, shame on you. Let us laugh at you. I'm just kidding. But basically, the partials module is its own separate module from like crown and bridge or dentures.
Yep.
And I kind of talked about this yesterday, but honestly, this is probably my favorite module. I just think it's super fun to use, just because it's so versatile. You can do so many different things with it, as you will see today. Okay, so the first thing we're doing is segmentation. So basically, we just need to tell the software where our artificial teeth are going to be placed. So I can see right here, please select artificial tooth 2. Please select artificial tooth 3, and then 5, and then we're going to come around to 14, and finally 15. So these don't have to be perfect, just the general area of where you want the software to drop these teeth into place. I'm going to go ahead and click next. And now I can see, now we're in the surveying and blocking out. And I can see our insertion direction is definitely probably not right. So we need to change that.
Meaning
So
you don't want to block all that out.
I don't want the insertion direction to be directly facial. I don't know everything there is to know about partials, but I do know that. I do know that. So we're going to change this. The best way to change this insertion direction is to just rotate around to a view that you want to use as your insertion direction, and then simply press the Set from View button. Now you see it's going to update those undercuts. So over here on the right-hand side of the screen, we have this color chart that corresponds with the colors that are marked on your actual model. And these are measuring the undercuts. So the yellow is going to be anywhere from 0 to 0.25 millimeters undercut. The lighter orange is 0.25 to 0.5 millimeters undercut, and then so on and so forth. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time because this is flexible. The clasps are going to be flexible, so we got a little bit more leeway there with working with undercuts and blockout wax. I'm going to go ahead and click next. And so now we are in the wax trimming phase. I'm gonna go ahead and turn the wax all the way up. And so now we can sculpt our blockout wax, which I'm going to proceed to do. I'm gonna get rid of, honestly, like most of it for this.
So for a flexible RPD with this, you actually do want to engage a little bit deeper than you normally would for a like a chrome cobalt style RPD.
Yep.
Part of that is because you need to engage in those undercuts a little bit more severe because the material is flexible, and we don't want to have any sort of loss of mechanical retention.
Yep.
Plus, I don't think with the materials that are available that you'd be milling this in, it's not like you can just tweak the clasp in or out and have it retain that position.
Yeah. Yep. So I'll leave a little bit here so it's not too severe. But that's the one of the nice things about flexibles. Now, I hope there aren't any prosthodontists watching because they're probably screaming at me right now. Because A, they usually don't like flexibles to begin with. Plus, I'm not spending a whole lot of time on this.
Good
All right.
thing, good thing everybody's muted.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go ahead and proceed. I'm going to click next once I'm done sculpting. And now you can see, unlike yesterday, instead of going straight to the partials design, we start with our teeth. And this is actually, if you've used the Crown and Bridge software, this is literally identical. You can see these are literally the exact same tools. The only difference is there's no margin, so you can put these wherever you want. Now, there is a tiny bit of a learning curve to this. So we're going to design the teeth first. And then after we design our framework, that's when we're gonna tell the software to cut in the tooth pockets. Now, the reason that there's a little bit more of a learning curve than say the dentures module is because in the dentures module, it will automatically cut the teeth to fit the tooth pockets. Doesn't do that in here. We have to make sure like the basal surfaces of our teeth are properly sculpted and at the proper height to allow for the correct thickness of tooth pocket, if that makes sense. It'll make more sense as we go along. So just like in Crown and Bridge, we can choose a smile library. I'm gonna go with something with a little bit less intense anatomy, something like this. And now we're gonna just start moving things around. So when I'm designing, I like to start with my global movements first. And I'm gonna be using this, this individual transformation tool right here. And I'm just gonna start moving these into place. I'm gonna do this quickly and not spend a ton of time. I'm just gonna kind of get them. Let's go over here to the side. Just gonna get them somewhat close. All right. So we're just gonna accept this as our, basic design for now. I'm not gonna spend time actually sculpting these teeth because it's not even remotely relevant to what we're actually trying to accomplish today. Now, the one thing that we need to do is we need to pay attention to the necks of these teeth because like I said, the software, unlike the denture module, is not going to cut these to accommodate. If we left this as is, this is how your teeth are going to look. They're going to be huge, and there's going to be a hole in your partial where the tooth pocket should be. So we got to change this. I find one of the easiest ways to do it. First of all, I'm going to use my transformation tool and just shorten everything. They can still be touching. So once I get them like, somewhat close, then what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go into my smart tools down here. And again, this is the same tool that's in Crown and Bridge. So for you Crown and Bridge folks, and I'm gonna set the desired distance to gingiva to point, 0.8 millimeters. And that's gonna be essentially the depth of our tooth pocket. So it's gonna snap everything out, 0.8. And then what you may wanna do is come back and just do some sculpting kind of around, the, see now it also did our interproximals, which I definitely didn't want to do, which sometimes it will do that. Not
Yeah,
always.
That's one thing I've noticed. It'd be nice if the software itself could analyze and see that there is that one little, or if it could see where the interproximals were, and maybe you could like
Hmm.
maybe if they had like like a tool where you could like
A
paint where
selection.
you want it to. Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes, sometimes it won't do it. I don't know what the rhyme or reason is. There's probably something in the algorithm that like analyzes, I don't know, certain heights or something. I don't know, but it doesn't always like it didn't do it on our second molars. It didn't adjust those interproximals, so
Yeah. Well, it
it's
probably did
hard.
on the.
It's hard telling.
Oh, yeah. Anywhere
Okay.
that's touching the scan is going to.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's go ahead and we're just going to do some of this by hand, I suppose. One of the things you can do is, no, not that. Kind of make your model just slightly transparent. Turn on your collision lines up here. And then use my morphing tool. These are the tweezers is the individual morphing. And then if I hold the control key, I've got that black arrow that allows me to morph like unidirectionally. And then I'm just gonna come underneath and start morphing these. Now I wanna just make sure there's no like set distance that you need. You just wanna make sure you have enough room for a good tooth pocket. So when I say there's a little bit more of a learning curve, this is really what I was referring to. Let's fill that in just a little. Just because I'm OCD, I can't have it. Every like ounce of my being wants to like sit here and design these teeth. Every part of me.
If you wanted to add a die torque to this design, is this something that would you have to apply the holes now in the bottom of each tooth, or is it something that the
Yeah.
software prompts for,
So you could.
or is it not even
This.
necessary for?
Well, it depends. I mean, if you're going to be, it really depends. So right now, there's no 3D printable resins for the base plate, for the framework. Now, if this was going to be, for example, an acrylic partial, you don't want any diatorics because the resin in that cavity actually won't cure. The light won't be able to penetrate it, and it won't actually cure. Which means if they break their partial, and if God forbid it happens in the mouth, they've got toxic chemicals in their mouth at that point. So that's a
Yeah.
huge no-go. Now, if what you would the best way there's several ways. The way I like to do it, I like to actually do it with attachments. So what I like to do is actually let me finish like morphing these, and I'll show my favorite way to do them. You could sculpt it in, but I actually like to do it with attachments, and I'll demonstrate that momentarily.
I'm excited to see this.
Have you never done it with attachments before, Cory? Do you always sculpt them in?
I would use I use the hole attachment.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
that's what
I
I meant
haven't
to do.
tried any of the others. I wonder if you could do like, so you know how they have like the rest attachment? I wonder if you could use that like on a lingual side, cut it out, and then you'd have access to actually applying the resin and actually bonding.
Yeah,
We should try it to one of them and see.
definitely. So you can see I'm just leaving enough space for a solid tooth pocket. And the first few times you do it, you'll probably have to like go forward through your partials design. Then you're going to see, oh, I didn't leave enough space, and you're going to have to come back and make more space. Fortunately, it saves everything. So if you have to come back and make adjustments, it's going to save your whole partial design. So don't be like super worried about that. It's going to happen that you're going to have to come back and make some adjustments here for the first few times you do this. It's no big deal. All right, let's go over here.
Now people are probably watching and like seeing you like whip through this like it's no big deal. How many years of experience do you have designing in 3Shape, Bryce?
in 3 shape, what year is it? This is
20, 2020, but this is the year I think everybody kind of wants to forget.
yeah. In 3 shape, I don't know, like maybe I don't know, maybe like 5 years. I'm not sure. But
Yeah.
before that, I have prior CAD experience before 3 shape as well. So fortunately, a lot of that experience translated over to 3 shape. Some of the basic principles of CAD design. Um, all right, I'm gonna stop fooling with this, or else we're gonna sit here all stinking day, which I don't really feel like doing. Hang on, one more thing. Okay, that's fine. I know it's ugly and terrible, but I'm not gonna spend all day on it. Okay, so one of the ways that we can do a die torque, let me turn off this completely so we just have our teeth. So I'm going to go to attachments over here. I'm going to go to group, and then I'm going to do holes. Now there are several holes. Let's go with like a 3 mm hole. So I'm going to use the view direction, and we went over how these attachments work yesterday. Um, I don't know that we really have time to go over it all again because we have quite a bit of ground to cover. So if you want to know how these attachments work, I would recommend checking out yesterday's training session for more information on that. Actually, let's go with 4. Let's go with 4 mm. All right, so I'm just going to come underneath one of my teeth, find a good view, apply the attachment. Now, what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to hide this so I can see how far into the tooth that's going, because obviously that's way too high. So I'm actually just going to move it down like so. Click apply. Now we have a die torque.
Nice.
Now that one's perfectly cylindrical. There are other ones that you could potentially use. Or the nice thing is you can actually import your own attachments into 3 shape. So if you're somewhat of a tech savvy person, you could use something like Mesh Mixer and create an attachment that might have some kind of undercuts for mechanical retention. That'll work just as well. Well, better really. Let's see if there might be some other ones in here. If we go into the partials, we could actually do. Might actually be
I
able
think
to use
that
this
that's gonna.
the Y shape one right here.
I think that's just gonna create a positive though.
Oh yeah, it won't be a hole. It won't be subtractive. Yeah, good point. But that you could change that in control panel, I guess. But yeah, if you want something with undercuts, you might need to CAD it up yourself,
Mm-hmm.
which probably wouldn't be very hard. But let's go ahead and re-add that. We'll just do one for the sake of
Just for example,
demonstration. Yep.
do you want to toss one of those the retention one into that they go
Yep.
to go on the drop down and see what they a retention hole. And then I'd move it out to that lingual surface and almost create like a
The only problem is that they don't give you a lot of. That's kind of weird. They don't give you a lot of like manipulation controls over this one, which is really kind of.
annoying.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Let's try adding it again. Now I've never actually used one of these before.
Let's do it there. Let's see what that does, just for kicks and giggles.
Ah.
Yeah, it won't let you make it any deeper.
Yeah.
So people can't hear, but there's William Devine. He sits right next to us, and he was just heckling you.
Whatever. Whatever wheel.
But it'd be cool if you could take that one and actually make it deeper. Or
I
technically, I
know
guess
it
you
won't
could
let me for. Yeah.
technically, I guess you could add a hole attachment, but only put it on part of the side of it, like
Yeah.
halfway through.
Yeah. Hmm.
Maybe undo that one and do that, and then just for kicks and giggles.
Which way? This way?
Just do it just like that. Just apply it like that, because it's not like that'll work. There we go.
Yep, that could work.
Cool.
So now there's some mechanical retention there.
Yep.
So yeah, different ways to do it. Plenty of ways. Let's go ahead and let's get into the actual partial design now. Let's click next. All right, so this can be a little bit different than a cast partial. We're actually going to skip retention grids. Now, one thing that people will do and then they find out it's not going to work very well is they try to use a plain retention grid. It's not going to work because there's a resin gap underneath. And there's no acrylic going underneath of this retention grid if we're doing a flexible. So we're actually, one nice thing about this module is we can just skip retention grids. We don't have to place any. So I'm just going to click next. So I'm going to draw pretty much everything with our major connector for the most part. So I'm going to click right here to the major connectors button. And then I'm going to start drawing our partial here. So I'm just going to draw it sort of quickly first.
And if anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask while Bryce is doing that process. So far, we don't have any, which means, Bryce, you're doing a great job.
Bam.
So far. Nobody's even heckling you. I'm checking the Facebook group as well.
You know, I'm actually a little sad that nobody's heckling me. That kind of gives me the sads.
Will's still heckling you. He said your die torque could have been deeper.
You know what, Will? Wow. All right, so we have a few different ways, or a couple different ways we could clasp this. I'm going to bring this. Actually, probably should have sculpted some of that block out wax away, but it's okay. I can go back and do it later if I wanted to. Especially because I can't see now. I'll come back and fix that. Because it's a bad looking clasp. Bring this around.
I'm interested in seeing how you're finishing off that clasp.
How what?
How you're gonna finish off that clasp around that tooth.
Are you
Or what
heckling
you're
me?
I
didn't want you to. I didn't want you to heckle me. I wanted them to heckle me.
Bryce, can you just restart the whole thing?
You just restart your life.
That'd be a little more challenging to do, I believe.
All right. Let's get this line finished. I'm going to start making some adjustments. That one should be okay. Bring this down on the tissue a little more. Now, one thing that I've noticed that's really challenging, at least for me personally, and Cory, maybe you can attest to this. Everything looks different on screen compared to like the final product. Like I will sit here and nitpick about every little thing that I possibly can find. And then, I actually like, you finish it and you print it or mill it or whatever. And it's like, wow, I never would have even noticed that anyways. So why did I
Yeah.
worry about it? But
Or that, or you design one of these. Because I've designed a couple and then 3D printed them, and it's like it looked nothing like what I expected it to.
you saw that going differently in your head.
Yeah, you're like, man, this looks really good on the screen, and then after you 3D print it, you're like, well, that did not work.
Yeah, I've done that a time or two.
Yep.
But that's just honestly, I mean, that's part of the learning process. You can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs. Is that what they say?
I don't know. Is that what they say?
I think that applies here, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so. You can't make a few omelets without breaking any yolk.
Yeah, we'll go with that. I like that. Mm-hmm. All right. All right. Move these down a little bit. Take a quick look around. This is gonna have to come down for sure. Oh my gosh, look at the belly. My tooth is Prager's. Look at that. What?
A little bit.
I, what? I'm gonna be that guy. I'm sorry. I can't deal with it.
So while you're
This
doing that, we had a question come through though. It says, "Hey guys, what material are you planning on using here and is flexible?"
So really not going to talk about a whole lot of materials today, to be quite honest. I mean, the teeth you could print. You could theoretically print the teeth, but there are not currently any 3D printable, flexible partial resins. Really wish there was. That'd be really cool, and it's definitely something that we get asked a lot. Is, hey, when is there going to be a flexible partial resin? Hopefully soon is really the best answer that I can give. Um, so we'll see.
Yep.
All right, so let's go ahead and proceed. I'm going to click next, and we're going to keep trucking along here. Okay, so one thing that you're probably going to want to do if you're going to start doing these is set up a new major connector in control panel. I haven't done that on this. This is a brand new PC that we just got, so I haven't done that. But you'll probably want to come set up a thicker major connector. Alternatively, you could simply go back and we could, oh no, I guess they don't let you change it in the design. You have to do it in the control panel. Never mind, just kidding. Yeah, I would go in and create a thicker major connector simply because it's gonna have to be thicker because it's not metal, it's a thermoplastic more than likely.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm not gonna do any clasping here. I did all my clasping um, in my major connector, which is probably the easiest way to do this, to be quite frank with you. You could theoretically just draw your major connector and then actually do individual clasps here, but I think the major connector is probably the best way to go. So I'm
Yep.
actually just gonna click next, and we're gonna go on a sculpt. Now I'm usually gonna be doing quite a bit of sculpting here in this step. First of all, I would want to definitely thicken everything up a little bit. It's too thin. Let me pull up a 2D cross section just to demonstrate. Probably this is going to be too thin. So over here on the right hand side on our toolbar, there's a 2D cross section tool. If I click on that tool, it's going to open this window, and then I can just left click and drag and draw a line. And now I can zoom in and I can measure the thickness of this. Yeah, and it's not even a millimeter, so that's obviously going to be way too
Super thin.
thin.
Yeah.
So I would want to come in here, use my sculpting tool, and just thicken this bad boy up. Like that. Now the other thing we need to do, again, this is something that's different than the denture software. It's not going to just give us a tooth pocket. We actually have to sculpt it in. So I'm going to turn my teeth all the way on, and I'm going to use my wax knife and actually start sculpting a tooth pocket here.
Yep. So while you're doing that, I'm gonna look up and see in the control panel, just for kicks and giggles, the actual, I guess the settings we have to connect for the major connector.
Okay. So the first thing I'm going to really do here is kind of like sculpt like the emergence profile here. Just kind of add everything in. I just want to have a good, like solid, stable tooth pocket. Thicken up our clasping for sure. I'll come back and smooth all that out. It's no biggie.
Yeah, so you'd have to actually add in a new major connector
Yeah,
from scratch, and then you can program how thick you ever want. Let's see how thick it'll let us to go.
I would imagine it'll let you take it pretty thick.
It'll let you go up to 1.5 millimeters
Okay,
as a
so that's not
default.
bad. You
Yeah.
can thicken it up from there if you need to. So
Yeah.
okay, let's go around to the lingual here. Believe it or not, Corey, this beast of a computer that we got is actually
Keeping up.
getting a little slow on me.
A little laggy.
A little laggy.
Time to return it.
Yep, send it back. Don't need it. Don't want it. All right, same here on this side. I'm gonna come back and smooth all that out. Don't yell at me.
Still, let's see here. Still no questions in yet. So
Man, come on, guys. Why is everyone so quiet today?
let's see. Yeah, no questions on either group.
Okay, we're getting there. We're getting there. So obviously we need to fill in.
Fill in Corey's food trap that he created.
So one thing that really helps doing this is to make the teeth slightly transparent. So obviously that diatoric over here is not filled in. That's just going to be a hole, and there's not going to be anything really at this point to fill it. If you want to fill it in, you can, or if you want to leave it as a hole, just leave it as is right now. If you want to fill it in, that way your framework like engages with it really well. You can actually come in here, fill it in, and then when we cut the tooth pockets, it's going to snap it directly to that cavity. So you can do it either way. You can either leave it as a cavity or fill it in. There's different reasons you might want to do one or the other. The other thing you want to make sure you do is you want to make sure you actually fill in all the way underneath. It's okay if you overbuild it. That's not a big deal because we're going to cut the pockets.
Yep.
So definitely feel free to overfill it. Yeah, this computer's getting a little sloppy on me there, Corey. So make sure this is totally filled. I don't want any space. Okay, so at this point, what I'll do, grab my smoothing tool, start to clean things up a bit. I'm not gonna smooth out in here in the middle because that's all gonna get cut. I need it to be filled right now. So I'm just gonna start smoothing things out with my smoothing tool a little bit, so it doesn't look so stinking ugly. Still looks ugly, but you know, we'll at least put some lipstick on the pig, so to speak. Make sure that's all the way filled in. Okay. We're just gonna say that looks good because we are quickly running out of time here. All right, so now that we've filled everything in, smooth some things out, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna click next. Don't need a finishing line. We don't have any metal acrylic junctions here, so I'm just gonna click next. All right, so now we are in the Sculpt RPD design. So again, we have a sculpting option, which we just did. Now, the big thing here, this is where we create those tooth pockets. So if I go underneath the Smart Tools right here, this option, create pockets for teeth.
Nice.
And we can set the depth. So let's just set it to 0.4. See how they look.
0.4 means it's how much it's reducing underneath the teeth, correct?
Yeah, I think that's actually extra space, so we don't want that.
So you'd
Set
actually
it
want that to be
0.
like,
very little, maybe like, I don't know, 10 microns. Just a little bit of extra space.
I think you have to undo the previous cut.
Oh, yeah, I think you're right.
Previous 2 cuts.
Yep. So there we go. So now we have an exact cut to the teeth. If you want to give yourself a little breathing room, let's undo it. We'll do 50 microns. That's just going to give you a little bit of extra space. So one thing that you may come across, if you see like right here, if you see like flat spots in the middle of your tooth pocket, it means you didn't fill it enough when you were coming in here with your sculpting tool on your framework. So you simply go back and fill it more, and then it'll then recut it. You'll have to undo the previous cutting of the pockets and then do it again. Now, if you see holes, that means you didn't reduce the basal surfaces of your teeth enough. So you're gonna need to go back up here to your tooth design, and don't worry, it'll keep everything that you've done since then. It'll keep all of your framework, so you're not gonna have to redo it all. But you'll have to jump back, make the adjustments to those teeth, and then come back forward and again cut the tooth pockets. I managed to get it pretty spot on my first try, but I've done it a couple of times. I've used the software quite a bit. So, but you know, if you have to go back, make adjustments, come back forward, that's totally normal. That's what you're really gonna have to do, especially while you're learning.
Yep.
So now the one thing in the partials module that I don't like, and I hope they change, is you can't bridge these teeth. I don't know why. I don't know why they don't give you that option. Would be really nice because I'd prefer to bridge the teeth whenever possible, just because it's less work.
A lot less work.
I'm gonna click next. Actually, I'm gonna remove any stippling. So to remove all of this right now is showing up as stippled wax. I'm gonna click the clear button, the clear selection to remove it, and then click next. Now we are in pre-manufacturing. So what you can do here, you can add tissue stops, which we don't need. We can add a support bar. So if we wanted to add a support bar to this, I can click the support bar button here. I can set the diameter then I can run a support bar by clicking one point, clicking the other point. Now we have a support bar. Depending on how you're manufacturing this, you may need one. If you're gonna, for example, mill this in acetal or something, you might want to run a support bar just to prevent any kind of warping. I'm gonna delete it. The other thing you can do in here is you can change your stippled wax pattern. There are 9 by default, 9 different stippled wax patterns. Feel free to check some of them out. But we're not going to be applying any stippled wax on this flexible. Let's go ahead and click next. Most of these settings we went over yesterday. So
Right.
again, I would recommend checking out yesterday's training session. It is available, as will this one be, on our Facebook page and on our website. Let's click next. I want to output these files so everybody can see what they look like. So now we're just saving everything, saving all of our files. We've got green check marks, which means everything's saved properly. So I'm
Yep.
going to go ahead and click close. I'm going to export those by pushing F7 on my keyboard. Then I'm going to open that directory by holding Shift and pressing F4. So here we have our framework. Let me bring it over. You see it now?
Yep.
So we have the framework. And then in the folder of teeth, we have all of our teeth. Let me open them all. Oops.
Sorry, not funny.
Yeah, you laugh. You laugh. Now, if you're going to be printing these, one thing, because you'll notice it actually exports these in the same orientation. So I'm actually going to experiment and see. We might be able to bring these in a composer and print these as a bridge. Even though they're not technically bridged, if you design them with interproximal contact, it should bring these in the same XYZ coordinates, and we can actually print these as bridged units, at least the molars, obviously.
Right.
So let me open Composer. We'll just select, doesn't matter what, anything. All right, let me copy that manufacturing directory file path. Now let's import all these. Hopefully, it should. It didn't. It didn't. I was wrong. I wonder why, Corey, they don't bring those in the same coordinates.
Hang on a second. Oh, wait. Go up to your go as if you're going to import a file again. I'll show you some. And go to, oh, nope, hit
Go to
cancel.
defaults.
Yeah, go defaults and then change auto place under positioning
Yeah, there we
to
go. As file.
as file.
Yeah,
Hit OK.
that's what we
And
needed.
then try importing those and see.
Dude. So now what you can do, we can use the rectangular select tool and move these. As long as we move these together, now we can print these as a bridge. Boom, loophole.
Yep.
I like it. Very cool. So even though you can't
That
bridge
is
them in
pretty
3
sweet.
shape, if you're using a Seeger Composer and you want to print these, you can print them just like this. I like it. All right, cool. Let me see, Corey. Do we have any questions from the group?
Well, I don't see any from the webinar inside of it. Let me check the Facebook page. We did have a question that came through that said, after this is all said and done, who's buying lunch? I'm gonna say Ken, you are. We'll
Ooh,
take lunch whenever. Uh, that or we'll just grab a drink in Chicago maybe next year if
yeah.
it's here, hopefully. And then another question came through that says, what material do you use to bond the teeth in a flexible base framework? That's a really good question.
It depends on. I mean, it depends on what materials you're using.
Yeah.
Really, there's various bonders. I mean, it depends on the teeth. Depends on the framework material. There's there's a ton of companies out there that make bonders for various acrylics, plastics, resins. One that comes to mind is I like to use if like for example, let's say you're doing Duraflex and you're printing teeth, I would probably use the Bond LC from Inextent. That's what I use.
Yeah.
Anytime I'm bonding printed teeth to any kind of plastic at all, whether it's acrylic or photopolymer, or they might even bond to Valplast. I don't know. I haven't tried that. Don't quote me. It might though.
Yeah.
Um, I always use the Bond LC from Inextent. Um, they have really good stuff. I use them for all my composites. I use them for my bonders. You can even bond printed um, or composites to zirconia,
Yeah.
which is pretty cool. So there's a lot of good options. Um, GC probably makes some stuff. So yeah. Let's see what else do we have.
I think that is the last question that I see at this point in time.
You check Facebook.
Yeah, that's what I was just looking was Facebook.
Cool.
Um, so I guess if that's all the questions that we had, Bryce, you did a phenomenal job again. Um, victory is yours. And then we'll see everybody in 2 days. So 2 days, we have a really cool flipper design, which I think will probably be done fairly quick, and we could probably even kick that off on a printer and maybe post a photo later on the Facebook
Hmm.
actual channel itself so you guys can see that. And if you guys have any questions in the meantime, or if you think of any questions, shoot us an email at productsupport@whitmix.com. That's our support channel, and we'll be able to go ahead and answer any questions that you may have.
Yep. Side note, I just thought of something. Okay, just think about it for a sec. Zoom needs to add like some kind of skin or filter where your headphones become Princess Leia buns.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to get you some Princess Leia buns to
Dude,
attach to your
how
headphones.
how funny would that be? We could all be Princess Leia.
I don't know if they'd be able to do that. I'm sure they could actually, because look at the virtual
Yeah, look
background
like
behind us.
well, yeah, and like look at like Snapchat and stuff. They
Yeah.
could do it.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, if you,
That'd be cool.
I doubt you guys noticed, but this is not actually a background hanging behind us. This is a photo we upload for it. So we'll have to change it up as well
Yep.
for that too.
Yep. Cool. Awesome. Well, thanks everybody. I hope this was of some benefit. If you have any questions about anything, feel free to reach out to us. Our email address is productsupport@whitmix.com. And our phone number, let's see if I can remember it off the top of my head, 1-800-626-5651. And our tech support extension is 1437. So feel free to reach out to us with any questions. Otherwise, I hope everybody joins us on Friday. Friday will be, just so everyone knows, Hawaiian Shirt Friday, as is every
That's right.
Friday. It
Gotta
will be
wear your
Hawaiian.
Hawaiian.
Yep.
You gotta wear your Hawaiian shirt. And if you guys are on the Facebook page watching, please post a photo of you in your Hawaiian shirt. That'd be
Please
super
do.
cool.
Yes. Everybody join us for Hawaiian Shirt Friday. And otherwise, thank you, everybody, and we'll talk to you then.
See you guys.